Members, the time for this debate has expired. Call on private and local order of the day number 1.
Arts Centre of Christchurch Trust Bill, third reading.
The Honourable Nikki Wagner.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. It is with great pleasure and delight that I bring this Arts Centre of Christchurch Trust Bill for its third reading. As we've heard in the House over the last few weeks,
order.
The arts... Sorry.
The Minister must move the bill and not the preamble, just move that,
Certainly.
then you can go into the substantive matter if you just want to say.
Thank you,
Honourable
Mr Speaker.
Nikki Wagner.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I move that the Arts Centre of Christchurch Trust Bill be now read a third time. Mr Speaker, this bill is a very important bill for Christchurch and for the Arts Centre, so it's my delight to be here at its third reading. As we've heard in this House over the last few weeks, the Arts Centre is beloved by the people of Christchurch, actually also by visitors and tourists that come to our city. It is a magnificent site. It's a site of 23 neo-Gothic buildings and something that every Christchurch person has spent time in, and it's part of our everyday life. It's been a centre of activity, full of arts events. It has a weekend market that I think most tourists visit. It has craft stores. It has the Ducks Deluxe, and we've heard about lots of events in there over the past years. And also Le Cafe, which was also frequented by many of us often. Of course, the site suffered dreadfully under the earthquakes. In fact, it was damaged in both earthquakes, September and February, and 23 of the 24 heritage buildings were badly damaged. Now, these buildings were originally built, the first were built in 1876, and over a period of time until the last one in 1923. And so they have been such an important part of our city as they were used for different purposes, that it's been enormously difficult for the people of Christchurch and very sad for us to see them damaged. It's fortunate that they were well insured, and what the Trust Board now is facing is about a 7-year restoration and rebuild period and nearly $300 million work of restoration. Actually, the work is well underway. It's going very well. We've already seen the registry building on the corner of Montreal and Worcester Street complete, and now that is tenanted. And the gym is also being completed, and that's now used as a performance space, and people are able to go in there and enjoy that art. The Grand Hall is the next one to be completed. That is a magnificent building. It had a turret, which has been put back up there, but also immensely special stained glass windows, which fortunately survived the earthquake and will be put back into that building. They're also expecting that the work in this restoration will be finished earlier than the 7 years, and so I think it's really a feather in the cap of the people working on that to see that this work is being done beautifully. It's really restoring these buildings, but also it's going to be on time and on budget. Now, this Arts Centre of Christchurch Trust Bill is a really important element for the protection and preservation of the Arts Centre for the future. It sets up to modernise governance arrangements of the Trust and to set out the charitable objects of that Trust in legislation. This is to give greater certainty around the original intention of the trust deed and to formally recognise the heritage and cultural significance of the Arts Centre. The modernising of the governance arrangements brings the Trust in line with currently accepted best practice, and this is absolutely vital. It's really important that the Trust Board maintains a strong set of skills during this restoration phase, but also into the future as the Arts Centre is repopulated and becomes again the central part of importance to the people of Christchurch and those who visit our city. I really want to commend the work of the Arts Centre Board. Commend it in the way they developed this bill. As we know, people are very fond of the Arts Centre, and they also want to have their say in the Arts Centre. So there's been quite a lot of controversial debates over the years, and the way that the board discussed talked to stakeholders, consulted widely, and explained their rationale to the people of Christchurch was very well done indeed. And I'd like in particular to recognise the Honourable Margaret Austin, who has talked about the Arts Centre, I have to say, to all and sundry, probably for decades, but was particularly active in this area, explaining what was going on and putting people at rest to know that this was a good thing for the Arts Centre. I also want to acknowledge the work of Jen Crawford, the chair of the board, and Andre Lovett, the CEO. Both of them have led this process, and while they are leading this process, it was on top of managing this huge restoration, but also future planning for the site. So it's been a huge job, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and a lot of enthusiasm, and a lot of hard work for a lot of people to get to this stage. So I just want to recap on the bill. What it will do is 1, modernise the trust governance arrangement. 2, sets out the objects of the trust and legislation to reflect the cultural and heritage significance of the Arts Centre. 3, provide legal foundations for the Trust Board to continue to recover from the earthquakes. 4, to provide for a skills-based board appointed by an appointment committee. 5, to ensure that there was a safe pair of hands in the short terms if circumstance ever arose that the board couldn't perform. And I think that's really important. It gives us much greater certainty than the past. And finally, it sets out the Trust's current objectives in legislation, again giving that certainty. I'd like to thank the Select Committee for their hard work on this bill. They took it very seriously. They even visited the Arts Centre, and I think that's really important because it gave them an opportunity to see why it's important to the people of Christchurch, and I'd like to commend the work of Scott Simpson as the chair.
Very fine, Select.
They made some very helpful amendments. In particular, they introduced a new subclause 5.2 for clarification that requires all income to be used to advance the charitable purposes of the Trust. And they also deleted clause 8, which provides for the transfer of the Trust property to the Crown on an interim basis. That's what clause 8 was going to do, but instead they inserted clause 9, and that states that the Charitable Trust Act 1957 applies. So that's standard right across the country, and I think a better solution. So basically, I think the work they did improved the bill and made it a much more certain and more acceptable bill to the public of Christchurch and actually to the board itself. So finally, I just want to make a comment about the importance of the references to the historic stone buildings. They were central to the intentions of the original trust deed, and so it's particularly important that the stone buildings are referenced in the preamble and in clause 4 of the bill. Finally, it's my great pleasure to be here at the third reading. The Arts Centre is a magnificent cultural and heritage site for New Zealand. It's beloved by the people of Christchurch and beyond, our visitors and our tourists. It's a hub of activity. It's something that we all go to for arts, for crafts, for the market, for entertainment, to the pub. Something that all Christchurch people can enjoy, and this passing of this bill gives it a fantastic footing for the future, and it will be there for many, many generations to enjoy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.